Well, good morning. My name is Robert Kirkpatrick, Director of the Global Pulse Initiative in the Executive Office of the Secretary General at the United Nations. Our Twitter handle is UN Global Pulse. Some of you may be wondering what on earth the United Nations is doing at Strata. The short answer is that we need your help. I don't need to tell you that we live in a hyper-connected and volatile world with its endless financial turmoil, pandemics, food shortages, and political upheaval. Our tightly coupled systems have become interdependent, interacting with climate change and creating complex feedback loops that baffle predictive analysis. Local crises seem to emerge faster and faster, reverberate around the world, and amplify effects of crises already underway. We're confronting something new here. Today, right now, world leaders are at the UN General Assembly grappling with the challenges of adapting to an unfamiliar and unsettling landscape. For the world's poorest and most vulnerable communities, these fast-moving crises hit particularly hard. Waves of successive shocks increase the risk that these communities will be driven back into poverty after decades of progress. They work harder for less. They sell their assets. They go into debt. They give up meals and medicine, and in the end struggle to survive. So at the UN, our mission is to protect these communities from harm, to increase their resilience to future shocks, and to ensure that their lives continue to improve. Doing so requires understanding where they are being impacted by crises and where our policies and programs aren't working. But everything moves faster now, and our old ways of tracking global development can't keep up. Household surveys are cumbersome and slow. National statistics take years to collect, validate, and release. Much of the data used to track progress toward the Millennium Development Goals, for example, dates back to 2008 or older. Finding out today what was happening 2 years ago is an exercise in history. There has to be a better way. The irony here is that meanwhile, of course, we're swimming in an ocean of data. With the explosion of mobile phone services in developing countries, the data is being generated everywhere. 50% of Kenyans have mobile phones today. Indonesia is the second largest user of Facebook in the world, with 17 million active users in Jakarta alone. And as people use these online services, they leave trails in the data. And as their lives change for better or worse, the patterns change. Those of you working in the private sector are using advanced analytics to mine this data for a real-time understanding of your customers and your markets. The time has come for the public sector to begin harnessing the power of real-time analytics for social good. So we do need your help. Recognizing both the urgent need and the opportunity before us, the Secretary General established Global Pulse as an innovation initiative in the UN to harness big data to help us gain a real-time understanding of human well-being. Think of Global Pulse as a kind of R&D lab in the UN system. Today, we're a small team of data scientists, software developers, economists, policy experts. As we scale up, we'll be building a network of pulse labs in developing countries around the world. We're working with partners inside and outside the UN to learn through experimentation what patterns to listen for, what technologies could help us pick out signal from noise, and how we can actually use this information to make it actionable in a way that would give us the capacity for a more agile and resilient approach to international development. So imagine for a moment what pattern of food crisis might trace through the data set of a mobile carrier in sub-Saharan Africa. When the rains don't come and prices rise and crops fail, could one see subscribers in one part of a country who normally put $10 a month on their mobile phone card suddenly shifting to 50 cents every 4 or 5 days? Perhaps they start defaulting on the microloans that they pay back over mobile phones. Or perhaps they're calling into farmers' hotlines trying to sell livestock at a time when no one sells livestock. What patterns do we leave behind when our lives take a turn for the worse? And then there's the social web. People share so many things online today that we care deeply about in the UN. They talk about being unable to afford rent or medical care or school books. They talk about losing their jobs, searching for jobs, migrating for jobs. They share that they don't feel well, and they talk about their symptoms openly. They talk about pregnancy. They talk about HIV testing. They share what they paid for food or gas yesterday and compare tips on cutting the grocery bill. People are telling us everywhere in real time, unasked, the very information that we ask them through surveys. The challenge is to turn it into something actionable by policymakers. The data that has changed how you do business could also transform how we do business, giving us the agility we need to protect these populations in a world of fast-moving crises. So Global Pulse is looking for partners in the private sector and academia who can work with us to develop a 21st century approach to international development. We have a number of research initiatives with partners already underway, analyzing data from past crises to learn what signals we should be listening for in the future. It's early still in our research, but what we're seeing is compelling. Sentiment analysis of blogs suggests that months before people lose their jobs, early warning signs appear. Tweets from Indonesia reveal where people are dealing with power outages and waiting in line for fuel. Prices scraped from e-commerce sites in Latin America can be used to track food price inflation in real time. If you're interested in working with us, we'll be here this week, and we'd love to talk to you. On the technology side, we've begun building the first tool in our open source toolkit. It's called HunchWorks. HunchWorks came out of the recognition that by the time we have hard evidence today, it's too late to act. We live in a world of weak signals. Early on, evidence is inconclusive and fragmented, and expertise is scattered across disciplines. Experts usually suspect something is going on, but they're unwilling to share it publicly before they have hard evidence. So we started thinking, could we use the social graph to create a safe space to share in that circle of trust your hunches? The principle is quite simple in HunchWorks. You create a hypothesis, attach some evidence, files, data sets, satellite imagery, whatever it be, and then share it with your trusted circle. They can tag, comment, rate, vote, bring in their own evidence to support or refute the hypothesis. Intelligent software agents will help us amplify situational awareness across the network. Essentially, we're aiming to use social networks to assemble a human lens on big data. We believe that tools like HunchWorks could help development experts around the world crowdsource the evidence and assemble the puzzle pieces faster to allow us to respond faster. There's a presentation on HunchWorks here at Strata at 1:40 on Friday for those who are interested in learning more. One final point. We cannot learn to take the pulse of vulnerable communities without access to data. While there's a great deal of useful data on the open web, more and more potentially quite useful data is accumulating behind corporate firewalls. There are a host of privacy issues around this data, and businesses protect it fiercely as their intellectual property. So we've begun to think about a concept called data philanthropy. Could companies share some of the data that powers their businesses in anonymized and aggregated form? Or could they modify their own real-time analytics to look for the kinds of patterns we tell them are concerning and then alert us should those patterns appear? When we've approached the private sector about this idea, we've been pleasantly surprised to find that they don't view this as another corporate social responsibility initiative. It turns out to make pretty good business sense as well. Think of data philanthropy as a risk mitigation strategy you pay for with data. If you're investing in emerging markets, the last thing you want is for your customers to suffer economic setbacks. What if analysis of your data could be used to protect communities from shocks? That is, to protect your workforce and your customer base. To make data philanthropy work, though, we're going to need an approach that fully protects both individual privacy and corporate competitiveness. So I hope it's clear why the UN is here at Strata. The challenges before us are immense, but so are the opportunities for impact. If you're interested in engaging with us, mining data, building HunchWorks, or joining us to rally around data philanthropy, members of the Pulse team will be here over the course of the week, and we'd love to talk to you. Thank you.